Mr Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to be able to comment on behalf of the business community of Cambridgeshire and also the Greater Cambridge, Greater Peterborough Enterprise Partnership in relation to the devolution agenda. We are indeed very concerned about the proposal that came from the government in the budget last week, particularly in relation to the fact that it was rushed through in 3 weeks when there had been considerable time looking at other options, and indeed driven by national politicians from Suffolk and Norfolk who wanted to clearly change the basis on which we wished it to go forward. And indeed, when we first started with the devolution agenda, it was the fact that it would be bottom up, where local people would put forward proposals to government who they would consider, when suddenly we found 3 weeks ago that completely switched to a top-down approach when government ministers interfered and decided to impose, with some very difficult challenges behind the scenes, to make people sign up to this arrangement. Now, there are a number of reasons why the business community has been really concerned and not in accord with it. Firstly, we don't believe that it covers the right geographical area, because we believe any solution which we need to work together on needs to actually be in relation to our functional economic area and geography. And that, of course, is not in Norfolk and Suffolk in the way it is. Much more relates to the local enterprise partnership area and goes further north and south. And indeed, the politicians in Norfolk and Suffolk actually forgot that Peterborough was part of our area and indeed the fastest growing city of all of the ones that they were looking at. I think they mistakenly thought that the magic of the economy of Cambridge was like fairy dust that could be sprinkled on their economies and suddenly they would transform in the same way. And I think anybody would understand that they were wholly mistaken in relation to that. So we would like to be able to continue and discuss a proper devolution arrangement based on the right economic geography. Secondly, clearly the bureaucracy to go with an elected mayor on such a large area is indeed a very difficult thing to consider. And in fact, whether someone at that level could actually deal with all of those issues. And we have to say that the whole purpose of devolution was in fact to actually bring decision making to the people. That seems to me to be going in exactly the opposite direction. Thirdly, when we looked at the deal and we looked at the financial arrangements, there wasn't really very much in it, and indeed the 30 million over 30 years with no inflationary aspect, when we worked out what we would get and with the kind of schemes they were, we would not have sufficient money to be able to deal with, and actually the kind of difficulties and problems that we have in infrastructure ourselves. And of course housing in particular was not dealt with in the way that we wished it to be with, particularly for Cambridge, and where the government would not actually move on that. The other factor was also that the actual document itself was quite appalling in terms of the fact that it looked to have been borrowed from another arrangement further north and actually had been quickly adapted because of the time and certainly wasn't fit for purpose for the kind of devolution arrangement. So we very much hope that when you debate this you will take those factors into account and will clearly look and consider that really we need to reject the current proposal from government and all sit down together and work very hard to make sure we get the right solution, because it is so important for all of us, for the future and for all of the people that are represented by you here. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any?
Yes, I will say a few words, Mr Mayor, if I may. Thank you, Mr Bridge, for coming and not asking specific questions, but laying out where you feel that you're coming from in terms of this whole devolution debate. And you're quite right that it is being driven from the top, which was the total opposite of what was envisaged in some sort of bottom-up arrangement and allowing people to have decisions. You're quite right, it was all done pretty secretly, pretty quickly. I can say we were assured at the first meeting that I attended that this could not be forced on us. I have to say I'm not entirely sure that that's correct, and they won't do that. We welcome your support. We've seen what the County Council did today. We will have the debate here later on this evening, and my hope is that the result of that debate will be a huge no from Cambridge City Council. I have to say that Councillor Herbert, who has led on this in a quite magnificent way, he must be exhausted. He's been backwards and forwards to London, I think, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he has been in several years. I think they're going to get him a season ticket between Cambridge and the House of Commons. The whole idea of a bureaucratic mayor that will oversee the whole of this East Anglia region is totally and utterly wrong. It doesn't fit. It isn't what's needed. I think I'll sort of, and you're right about the pressure. There has been enormous pressure on many councils. You'll note that on the devolution agreement there are 22 signatures from council leaders on there. There is one notable absence, and that is the leader of Cambridge City Council. And I hope later on this evening we make sure that stays that way. Thank you.
But I'll just say that the business community is very appreciative of all the work that's been done on behalf of Cambridge City Council and the way that it's been handled. And indeed, your leader has obviously tried very hard to make some sensibility of it. The only other comment I would make to show the kind of thing that happened was that when the government actually talked about devolution agreements, they said quite clearly to all of the local authorities that no deal could go through without the approval of the business community and the approval of the local enterprise partnership. That has been completely kicked into touch, and indeed the chairman of the enterprise partnership had a rather difficult conversation about what would happen to the enterprise partnership if we did not get behind it and sign it. That's certainly not the kind of way we would wish this to be handled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.